Hello everyone, Mark here from the Guitar Heresy channel. I'm just putting together, editing up some film that I took, actually was a bit over 2 weeks ago, of me first kind of working on engraving pickguards. And the first thing that I did actually was look at engraving aluminium pickguards that have been anodized. And that's actually been mentioned on the channel a couple of times because, well, I kind of mentioned it on a Monday Musings, actually having done it, and then last Sunday I built this guitar using the pickguard and control plate that went with it. But it occurred to me that I hadn't actually put out the film, just showing the footage that I took when I was doing that, about that process of actually trying this out for the first time. So I thought I'd edit that up now, but now several weeks later I also needed a bit of a forward, so that this is it. Today I've been, for the first time, looking at engraving, laser engraving, mirrored acrylic, which is one of the other things that I think makes potentially a really nice decorative pickguard, you know, and actually I think both of these are techniques that I will use, not all of the time, but I think I will come back to with both of them because I'm really happy with the results of both. Now, focusing back on the aluminium. I did this on one that was anodized black very deliberately because I think that contrast means that the white, I mean, it's kind of, I was expecting more silver, but it comes out white. When you kind of engrave onto it, stands out really well. I think any strong colour would do. I've picked up for another project that I'm thinking about doing, one that's anodized in gold, where it'll be a bit more subtle, actually, the kind of difference in colour there. I'm interested to see how that comes out. But things like strong blues and reds and what have you, again, I think would work really well with this technique. But having done that, having used that, having shown it a couple of times, I think it'd be really quite useful to take you through that process. The bit of the process that actually took the most time, I've got to be honest, was actually designing the engraving to put on there. I took a little while, I mucked around with a few ideas. I wanted to take advantage of the fact that you could stick together, when you're talking about anodized aluminium, let me turn this guitar up this way. When we're talking about anodized aluminium, you get a really kind of close fit here between the control plate and the pickguard itself. So I wanted something that actually wrapped onto that pickguard directly, which made it, again, took a little bit more time to just kind of create that. But I have to say, having done that, the process of engraving this was really kind of easy, you know? I just needed that image, you know, to get that in a format that the computer recognised. I needed to kind of line it all up, and then away we go. Let's roll the footage. So we start off with the piece in the machine and the engraving having started. I've put it here on a baseboard, not because it needed sort of sticking down to it or anything like that, but purely for visibility. With a black anodized pickguard against a black painted kind of interior of the laser, it was almost impossible to line the design up with actually the pickguard that it was going on to. So actually having something that was that kind of contrast made that a great deal easier. The two pieces are taped together though, the actual pickguard itself and the control plate, so that the whole thing is being engraved as one thing. Now, it took a while to engrave this. It was about 40 minutes, I think, and it didn't go totally without incident. You see, we've got a bit of an issue that's just coming up here. As this starts engraving that longer edge with the control plate, I noticed that it wasn't quite perfectly lined up. As we switch here to actually looking through the camera that's inside the device, and how that's shown on the computer, you can kind of see the problem. It looks as if that design is centered, but if you look very carefully at the top of that image, that's actually a shadow that's cast from where the light within inside the body of the laser engraver is shining. So actually it ended up with that edge of it overlapping slightly. I'll come back to that actually when we have a look. Other than that though, the rest of the engraving went really well, really kind of easily. At this point here, I'm taking that out of the laser engraver after that's all done. And it just looked lovely, really. Really nice fine detail. We'll switch here into an image where actually it's kind of on the bench and actually being looked at in a bit more detail. Here, I've untaped the two pieces as well, so you'll see there just how neatly they line up. If it's very slightly out, then actually you can really see if it's not quite working together. And here we are back with the finished item. You can really see if you look carefully here where it's just, you've got the kind of the edge of this design cut off in a couple of places, most visibly there actually. As I say, actually knowing to look for the shadow here as it's sitting in the machine is really useful. It's got to be much less of a problem if you're not using black at that point though. I think with a red or a blue one you'd much more easily see that. But anyway, just knowing to look for it, I think that's really, kind of an easy one to avoid in the future. This design, for those of you that have got a laser engraver and are interested in getting this sort of level of detail, this is done with a 55 watt CO2 laser. It's done in reasonable detail, so 18 lines per millimeter. Its power is at 40%. Its speed is set to, he reaches for its notes at this point, speed set to 200 millimeters a second. And it's just kind of, it's cut really, really finely. It's got some really good detail in there. As you can see as well, a week after I did it, last Sunday, I kind of installed it into part of this project of actually building a 6-string guitar, which is verging on heresy for me anyway, given how much I've enjoyed playing basses. And yeah, really good technique, one that I'd recommend if people have got access to a laser engraver, and certainly one that I plan on using again in the future. So a very rapid run through of engraving pickguards with a laser. In this instance, using anodized aluminium, and actually the process that I went through with my first attempt at doing that. Definitely one that I'll be coming back to. Also thought it was really useful looking at the engraving mirrored acrylic as another option with quite a different look. I think between the two of those, I think that will be a lot of my pickguards in the future. Where I use them, I like using quite figured wood, so actually in some cases I don't use them at all anyway. But yes, hope that was interesting and useful. Hope you're having a great day, and see you again soon. Bye.